Hello, this is Olivia Troy from Gforge, and today I'll be talking to you about and showing you how to implement an advanced workflow in Gforge. Gforge offers many tools to help your work run smoothly. Workflow is a valuable tool that Gforge offers, which allows you to apply a consistent structure and pattern for users within your project to use, to keep your work organized. First, I would like to show you how we use workflow here at Gforge by using the tracker status. When we create a tracker item, it automatically goes to an awaiting assignment status by default. Then, through weekly planning, it is assigned to someone, and they can accept that tracker item and change the status to accepted. Then, they do work on it, tests, and commit changes, and then they can change the status to needs merge. Then, we review changes, test and merge, and change the status to fixed test for release. After it is tested on gforge.com, the tracker item can be closed and changed to fixed closed. Another option within our workflow is if an item is blocked or waiting for something. So in this scenario, after an item is accepted and moves on to needs merged, if there's something that a user is waiting for or the item is in some way blocked, then you can move the status to blocked waiting for. After the issue has been resolved, then the status can be moved back to needs merged or moved on to the next step, fixed test for release. At this point, if it's blocked or waiting for something again, you can move it back to that status. After it's resolved, then you can move on to whatever step it needs to, including it being fixed and tested for release and then fixed close. A couple of other options that can happen in our workflow is if an item is accepted but then can't be reproduced. Then the user can change the status to works for me, and then it can be decided that is actually an invalid tracker item and it can be closed with an invalid status. Another option would be if a tracker item is awaiting an assignment, but through discussions it is decided that that tracker item doesn't need a fix, then the status can be changed to won't fix, which is also a closed status. To give you an idea where we're headed with this video, this is an example of what your workflow rules page can look like. It'll have all the statuses that you add, what valid changes can be made, who can make the changes, who will be notified if the change takes place, and also if you choose to require any fields for the change, they will also be written here. This is what it will look like at the end of implementing your workflow. Before we can implement workflow, first you must make sure that you have roles set up within your project. For this example, I've already set up 3 roles. The first is a contributor, which would be somebody working on the project. The second is a project lead, which would be an admin. And the third is a quality assurance tester. To start implementing workflow, first we go to the tracker section and then into whatever tracker you want to implement workflow in. For this example, I'm going to use the bugs tracker item, and then go into the admin sub-tab. From here in the tracker options, you can click on the edit fields auto assign and workflow link. As you can see in this table, you can select workflow for a number of different items. For this video, we are going to talk about status. So in the status row, first I'm going to start by clicking edit in the actions column. On this page, you can add in all the statuses that you want to allow your tracker items to have. So over here, you can add a new field element, and this will be a new status. So I'm going to start by adding in all of the statuses that we use here at Gforge, as you saw in the beginning of the video. So first you can add in a name, and then you can add an alias if you want, and then you can choose if the status is considered open or closed. This one is considered an open status. And then by default, we want our tracker items to come in the awaiting assignment status. So I'm going to select that in the default column. And then I'll add a couple more statuses here. You just repeat the same process. So this would be an example of what we consider closed status. And then I'm going to add in an alias for this status as well. As you can see, all of this information appears here in this table, so if you decide that you want to change something, then you can change it quickly from this page. So then after you add in all the statuses that you want, you can also add in a sort order and then click Save Changes, which will bring you back to this page. And then you need to select Workflow in the status row and submit. After you submit, then this link here in the workflow column will appear. This page allows you to control all of the transition rules between statuses as well as adding details to any transitions. So in this first row you can see that it's going from an awaiting assignment status to any of these statuses in the columns. So obviously it can't go back to awaiting assignment because it already is awaiting assignment. So we can allow it to go to the accepted status, but we don't allow users to jump directly from an awaiting assignment status to any of the other ones, including a fixed test for release or a fixed close. For the accepted status, we allow users to go from accepted back to awaiting assignment, to blocked waiting for, to works for me, needs merged, fixed test for release, won't fix, and invalid. For blocked waiting for, we allow users to go back to accepted, to go to works for me, needs merge, fixed test for release, and won't fix. For works for me, we allowed users to go to an accepted status, blocked waiting for, but we don't allow them to go to any of the closed statuses. For needs merge, we allow accepted, blocked waiting for, and fixed closed. For fixed test for release, we allow users to go back to accepted, to blocked waiting for, but do not allow users to skip to any of the closed statuses once again. Fixed close is allowed to move to accepted or to blocked waiting for. Won't fix is allowed to move to awaiting assignment and accepted. Invalid is also allowed to move back to awaiting assignment and accepted. So once you've checked all the boxes that you want for these transition rules, click Submit. If you change your mind about any of these, you can always go back and uncheck or check new boxes. As you can see, a bunch of detail links have appeared next to the checked boxes. So for each of these, you can go into the details. It will tell you what status you are going from and what status you are going to. So for each of these, you can select what roles are allowed to make this change. You can also select if there are any fields that you want to be filled in if this change is made. You can notify a specific role with a message when this change is made. You can also reassign that item to a role and change a field. So when moving from awaiting assignment to accepted, we allow the project lead as well as the contributor to make this change. We don't require any fields or any notifications. So once you've added in all your information, then you can click Save Changes and then move on to the next one. So I'm also going to go through this row of accepted. So when a tracker item is moved from an accepted status back to an awaiting assignment status, We allow project leads and the contributor to make this change. When a tracker item is moved from accepted to blocked waiting for, we allow the project lead as well as the contributor to make that change, but we also notify the project lead that that type of change is being made. When a tracker item is moved from accepted to works for me, we allow both the project lead and contributor once again to make this change. We also notify the project lead that this is happening, and we add in a message to let the project lead know what is going on with this tracker item. When a tracker item is moved from an accepted status to a needs merge, we allow a project lead and a contributor to make this change. We notify the project lead, and we also reassign this item to the nobody role. When moving from accepted to fixed test for release, we allow both the project lead and contributor to make this change, and we notify the project lead. When an item goes from accepted to won't fix, we allow a project lead and a contributor to make that change, and we notify the project lead with a message. And when an item is moved from accepted to invalid, we allow the project lead and the contributor to make the change, and we notify the project lead. You can repeat this process for each details section, and then when you're done, click Submit. After you have finished adding in all your details for your transitions, you can go into the Workflow Rules sub-tab of the tracker item that you've implemented workflow. From this page, all users can view all of the transitions that you allow between statuses. They can see who is allowed to make these transitions, as well as who is notified when the transition is made. Also, if you choose to require any fields to be filled in for this change, you can also view those here. Another cool feature about using workflow is once you have it all set up, you can save that project as a template, and then when you create new projects, you can use that template and workflow will already be set up in them. To show you workflow in action, I'm going to go to a tracker item that I previously created. As you can see, the status of this tracker item is awaiting assignment. When I try to change it, the only status that I'm allowed to go to is accepted, which is consistent with our transition rules that we set up before. Now that the status is accepted, I can move to any of the valid transitions that I allowed in the workflow rules. Thank you for watching. To keep up to date on all Gforge news, check out our blog at blog.gforgegroup.com. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact us at feedback@gforgegroup.com. And if we aren't already, let us manage a server for you, or you can download it for yourself at gforgegroup.com.